Chapter 1232, Comparison Experiments. After becoming a demigod and gaining some level of control over Sephra Castle, Klein was able to prevent its aura from permeating out into the real world and augmenting him. This made him stop considering similar problems. After all, this would result in abnormalities, causing him to be recognized by the beyonders of the fate pathway at a glance. It was rather unsafe. And at this moment, once he received Will Ossipton's reminder, he felt that it opened up new possibilities. When I was only a subsidiary to Sephra Castle and only had the right to use it, the aura and projection of Sephra Castle made a saint of the fate pathway not dare to look at me directly. I was equivalent to a mythical creature in the eyes to the corresponding low and mid-sequence beyonders. Now that I have initial control over Sephra Castle, there's a high chance I can make the effects better. This can affect angels who are complete mythical creatures themselves. Sephra Castle's level reaches that of sequence 0 at the very least? Yes, according to my deductions, it might even be higher than sequence 0. It has the trait that just knowing of it will result in corruption. Klein's mind whirred with activity, as though streaks of lightning were flashing across his mind. He quickly made up his mind. After returning to the forsaken land of the gods, he would find the monsters in the depths of the darkness and do some experiments with the marionettes in the fog of history, so as to deduce if his idea worked. He smiled and said to the 1-year-old child in the black pram, "I understand what you mean. I'll get someone to send you ice cream soon." Will Ossipton, who was wrapped in silver silk, slowly turned his head and looked to the side. "No, there's no need. I've been eating too much ice cream during this period of time, and it's starting to affect my body's development." Klein pricked up his brows and asked, "Genuine, top-grade ice cream produced right from the Inti's capital, Trier. Give it to me next week." Will Ossipton hesitated before answering. With that said, the plump 1-year-old child turned around and buried his face into a tiny pillow in the pram. Due to the limited time Miss Magician had at maintaining the historical void projection, Klein didn't say anything else. Using his unique trait, he forcefully escaped the dream and woke up before getting out of bed. Right on the heels of that, he stretched out his right hand and repeatedly pulled at the air. 4 to 5 times later, his arms sank as he dragged out a woman wearing a simple linen robe with a tree bark belt. She was barefooted and had long black hair. She was a lady with average looks. The leader of the ascetics of the Church of Evernight, servant of concealment, Ariana. At the same moment, in Hillston Borough, in an apartment, Fours, who was sitting in a reclining chair, seemed to be pulled by invisible threads as she sat up abruptly. Her body straightened as the blood vessels on her forehead throbbed. She felt that her spirituality was like a flood that flowed towards the void in front of her, one that she couldn't stop no matter how hard she tried. She was on the brink of being sucked dry. In the next second, this sudden surge eased quite a bit, but it remained frightening. It wasn't something that she could handle now. In a hotel room, Klein spoke succinctly once he saw the historical void projection of Ma'am Ariana gaining sentience. "I plan on cooperating with others to deal with a particular shaman king of the Rose School of Thought." Ariana nodded gently, indicating that she understood, but she didn't give any suggestions. Seeing that the ascetic leader didn't give him any warnings, Klein felt a lot more at ease with the plan to hunt the shaman king. He then said, "I've been planning on targeting the dark demonic wolf recently." Ariana opened her mouth slightly and said, "Be careful." Did she mean to say that I shouldn't belittle the dark demonic wolf, Cotter? Just as he was about to ask a question, his consciousness suddenly blurred. He saw the woman opposite him and his reflection in her eyes fade away as they quickly disappeared. Thud. Fours collapsed into the reclining chair as her facial muscles twitched slightly. This is more tiring than writing all night long. She gritted her teeth and tried cogitating to fall asleep. Extreme exhaustion might sometimes paradoxically cause insomnia to a person. In the forsaken land of the gods, near Noi's ancient city in the north, there was no one in the dark wilderness. With the lantern emitting a faint yellow light, Klein circled around to confirm his surroundings. Then he found a rock and sat down, no longer shielding the aura of the gray fog from seeping into reality. On this foundation, Klein consciously strengthened the projection that Sephra Castle placed on him. After he was done with his preparations, he quickly turned a monster hidden in the darkness around him into a marionette. The marionette walked out of the darkness. Under the illumination of the lantern, it approached Klein and cast its gaze on him. In the eyes of this monster marionette, other than the coated and hatted Klein having deeper, more profound eyes, his temperament had also become even more indescribable. There wasn't much of a difference from before. After repeatedly testing the different types of monster marionettes, Klein confirmed that ordinary people, or most Beyonders, were unable to discover that he had the aura of Sephra Castle on him. Following that, he reached out with his right hand and pulled out his body from half a day ago. He controlled the rather dull historical projection to cast his gaze over. This time, Klein saw a layer of grayish-white fog covering his body. Its interior was shimmering with light, but it didn't reveal its actual appearance. He then removed the projection support and attempted to pull out Mariontist Risego and other Beyonders of the Seer pathway to repeat the experiment. Yes, after enhancing the projection, Beyonders of the Seer pathway can directly discover something abnormal. However, those below the level of an angel can at least confirm that I'm related to Sephra Castle. There's no way to directly see the strange door of light, which is also the projection of Sephra Castle. This outcome wasn't too surprising for Klein. He took a deep breath, and after preparing himself to rescue himself, he raised his hand and pulled out Winner Inuni from back when he hadn't been his marionette for long. Inuni raised his head bit by bit, and his eyes gradually reflected Klein's figure. There was a faint gray fog that emanated outwards. Deep in the fog, transparent or translucent twisted maggots were clustered around countless spherical lights. The spherical lights formed a door of light that was dyed bluish-black. The door of light was much clearer than before as it appeared even more textured. At the same time, its shape changed as it extended even higher up. This made it look like a tall and thin, brilliant figure, and the grayish-white fog around it was the figure's hooded robe. The spherical lights constantly flashed, making Klein feel like he was being watched by this deep, mysterious, towering and terrifying figure with his numerous eyes. With a boom, Klein's head involuntarily tilted back as blood mixed with transparent maggots spurted out of his pores. The worms of spirit fell to the ground as they frantically rolled and struggled. Some of them rapidly dissipated, while some eventually calmed down before crawling back into his body and into his pores. Man, it's much better than directly losing consciousness and suffering memory loss the last time. Klein rubbed his temples and sighed silently. Inuni, who was standing in front of him, had already vanished because of the impact that Klein had received. Unable to maintain the historical void projection, Inuni vanished. This was also one of the reasons why Klein didn't suffer too much damage this time. Without Winner Inuni, he was unable to see the mutated strange door of light. This reduced the continuous assault on his senses. After 2 seconds, Klein entered the fog of history, took 4 steps counterclockwise, and went above the gray fog. Looking at the faint dark glow rising from his body and melting away, Klein finally heaved a sigh of relief and gave a self-deprecating laugh. I nearly corrupted and corroded myself. In the future, I'll use Risego and the other Beyonders of the Seer pathway to do additional experiments. If there's no direct assault, I need to confirm if there will be a reverse corruption from Sephra Castle's projection with the increase in observation time. The southern continent, East Balam Phaeltech city that was under attack. Under the illumination of the crimson moon, the lone soldiers hiding behind a simple shelter took turns to rest to recover their energy. Their faces were black and covered with traces of gunpowder. Occasionally, someone would wake up and take out some dried tobacco leaves and casually roll it. Then, they would use the remaining matchstick to light it up and bring it to their mouths to suck deeply at it. In turn, their eyes exuded mostly numbness and blankness. When the soldiers guarding this line of defense smelled the tobacco, they instinctively sniffed and looked over. "Do you still have any more tobacco leaves?" A soldier with a rifle asked his companion in a low voice. His comrade shook his head. "I've already finished smoking it. I don't know when the next batch will arrive. I'm going crazy without the tobacco." The soldier who first spoke gestured outside the shelter with his chin. Do you see that? There are so many corpses, so many hands and feet. They all belonged to living people. Before the sun set, the resistance had launched a fierce attack by feverishly storming the various defensive lines at Failtech City. Their disregard for their own lives frightened the lone soldiers and servant army who had been guarding the city. They almost had victory at hand, but ultimately failed to break through the critical line of defense. They left behind copious numbers of corpses before receding like the tide. His comrade fell silent for a moment before saying, "Maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, we will be joining them." Having said that, he looked up at the crimson moon and said in a dreamy voice, "I wonder how Backland is. I haven't received a letter from home in a long while. I wonder if they have enough food or if they can find a doctor when they are sick." The soldier who had wanted to smoke was about to curse at the damn war and the damned enemy when his eyes suddenly widened. Trembling, he raised his right hand and pointed ahead. They're alive. One by one, the soldiers looked over and saw that under the crimson moon, the dismembered corpses that the resistance had left behind were beginning to crawl up one by one, swaying as they tried to approach the defense line. In the distance, a mysterious hooded person in black robe with embroidered crimson patterns stood behind the resistance and spread out his arms slightly. The spirituality of the entire battlefield was rapidly being nourished.